This is Module 3, Lesson 8, and today we're going to continuing ordering integers and other rational numbers from least to greatest, greatest to least, etc. We're going to use a different strategy today that I had a student from last year that worked well for her, and it's, again, just a tool in your tool belt of something that you could do if you had to organize and adjust a large group of numbers. So the first thing I need you to do is to grab 15 of the little squares that your teacher should have put near your desk. And so you're going to grab 15 of these little squares here. And then on each one of them, you're going to write one of these numbers. So on one of them, you're going to write 0, -4, 1/4, -1/2, 1, -3 3/5, 2, -4.1, -0.6, 23/5, 6, -1, 4.5, -5, 2.1. So if it were me, I would push pause and I would have them up on the screen. Look carefully that you are using the ones that are separated by commas and make sure you're writing like if it's a -1/2 or not. But I would push pause and I would get all 15 of those written on these little cards here. So do that now. So now I am assuming that you have all of your numbers written out on your little cards. So this is a strategy when you have to sort a bunch of numbers. Sometimes it's easiest just to go ahead and put them on something that you can move around and adjust. Again, if this were on a test or in a real life situation and I didn't provide these little squares from you, you could take a piece of scrap paper and rip it up. You could utilize a lot of different techniques that you could have these little numbers so that you could move them around. So now I want you to take some time and I want you to organize these 15 numbers least to greatest on your board. Think about what strategies can help you do it quickly and efficiently. Think about what things you know and you have in your tool belt that you can think about that'll make this easier for you to decide. When you have them down on your number line on your dry erase board or on your desk, then push play and come back to check in with me to see if you have yours correct and have it done the same way that I had done. If you are coming back to me, it means that you are done organizing and sorting yours 15 different numbers in order from least to greatest on the number line, or you need some help. So how many of you first took your numbers and broke them into negative numbers and positive numbers? One way to sort them quickly and to kind of break them up so it's not so overwhelming is to go ahead and recognize, hey, all of these negative numbers are going to be to the left of 0. So they're definitely going to be lower or less than all of these positive numbers that have to be to the right of 0. Then I went ahead and 0 was one of my numbers. I knew that was going to be kind of in the middle or separating at least my negatives from my positives. So I went ahead and did them like that. So if you didn't have that step yet, go ahead and do that and then try to sort the rest of them. If you did, continue to watch. The next step I would have done is I would have sorted my integers, my positive or negative whole numbers, because those are pretty easy to think about and they help to provide benchmarks for my number line. So I know that 0 is starting here, so then it would go to the left, -1, 2, 3, -4, -5. So now that I have those placed, now I can kind of look at some of these other ones. So -4.1 I know is going to be to the left of -4 and be pretty close to -4 versus -5. So I can kind of move that one down there. -3 3/5 is going to be to the right of -4. So I know that that one's going to be somewhere in here. And then I have -1/2 and -0.6. So this one sometimes I can see them both, or I might want to change one of them to this one to a fraction or this one to a decimal. In this case, I like decimals better, so -0.5, I'm going to think of it as -0.5. So I know there's zeros in there, so I know both of them are between 0 and -1. So then I would think about, okay, well, if I was going by tenths, I would have 0 and then 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, which would be halfway in between here. And then I would have 0.6, which would be next. So I have my negatives now in order from least to greatest. Remember, no matter if you are a fraction or a rational number and an integer, if you're on a number line, if you are farther to the left, you are lower or less than anything that's farther to the right. So now I'm going to do my positive numbers. Again, I'm going to start with my integers because those are pretty easy to place. 0, 1, 2, and then 6. So now that I have those placed, now I can start to deal with these. I know that 1/4 is less than a whole, so that's automatically going to go over here. I know that 2 is going to be after 2 because it's 2 and some more, so it's going to be greater than that. Therefore, it has to be to the right. 4.5 is going to be less than 6 and more than 2, so it's going to be somewhere in here. And then I have this 23 fifths. And that's really hard for me to visualize. So instead of having it as an improper fraction, another skill I have is to change it to a mixed number. So I think to myself, how many groups of 5 are hiding in 23? I can break it into 20, so that would be 4 groups of 5, and then 3 are left over out of the 5 that I need to make another group. So that one's 4 3/5. So now I know it has something to do with 4.5 and 4 3/5. So again, I'm going to use some of my tools in my questioning. Well, I know that 4.5 is the same as 4.5. Well, if I think about 4 3/5, half of 5 would be 2.5. So 4 and 2.5 fifths would be 4.5. So since it's 3/5, it is just slightly more than 4.5. So again, you have lots of tools. I could change this one to a fraction. I could change this one to tenths. So whatever you're more comfortable or whichever one you understand better is the tool you need to use. So now this number line's pretty nice because although I have 15 numbers, immediately I can put them in order from least to greatest by just going left to right. If the problem were to switch things up and say greatest to least, then I just list them going this way. So as soon as I have this model in this line here, the visual, then it makes it very easy to go ahead and line it up. Also, think about how you liked being able to move these around or kind of manipulate these versus doing it on paper. So if that's a strategy that you like, feel free to use scrap paper or use your sheets of notebook paper and just rip up little ones so that you can kind of adjust them along a number line. That is a strategy that is perfectly open to you to use. Okay. Now we are done with that little warm-up activity. You can go ahead and throw away your 15 little scraps here. Make sure they get into the appropriate trash or recycling bin so that they're not all over your teacher's floor. Next, you need to grab Lesson 8 classwork page from your teacher, and you're going to go through and you're going to do an example like number 1. I'll do it with you, and then you'll do exercises 2 through 4 on your own. I'll do example 2 for you, so you'll be able to do 5 and 6 on your own as well. So let's do example 1 together real quick. It says Sam has $10 in the bank. So right away, I'm thinking if he has it, it's in the bank. That's a positive integer. He owes his friend Hank $2.25. If you owe somebody money, that means it's going to be subtracted out of your account, so that's going to be a negative integer. So I'm just already kind of thinking about these things. He owes his sister $1.75. Again, it's going to be taken out of his bank account. It's going to lower his bank account, so that's going to be a negative rational number. Consider the 3 rational numbers related to this story of Sam's money. Write and order them from least to greatest. And I, again, want you making those number lines just a rough sketch. It doesn't have to be real specific, but I think that is a really good visual, and the more and more we do of them, the better and better you'll be at them. So right away, I see that I'm dealing with positive and negative numbers, so I know that I need a 0. So I'm going to put a 0 in here. So then $10 is easy to place. It goes to the right, so it's about $10 right there. Negative $1.75 and a negative 225. If I'm thinking about my 0 here, it would go 0 and then negative 1, negative 2. So negative 1.75 is going to be a little bit closer to negative 2 than to negative 1. And then negative 2.5 is just going to be a little bit past negative 2. So here's negative 2.25, negative 1.75, and $10. So now I can order them least to greatest. Again, a lot of mistakes happen because we don't read carefully to know that this is a negative number, or that if they want it least to greatest or greatest to least. So slow down and really think through each situation. Write and order them. Least to greatest, I have them right here. I can just go left to right then. Negative 2.25, negative 1.75, and then positive 10. Then your job is to do number 2, 3, and 4. If you need help, feel free to come over and ask. And then let's look at example 2. Jason is entering college and has opened a checking account. Oh, so these ones are going to be greatest to least. So Jason is entering college and has opened a checking account, which he will use for college expenses. His parents gave him $20 to deposit into the account, so that's a plus $200. Jason wrote a check for $85 to pay for his calculus book. So if you write a check, that money's coming out of your account, so that's a negative amount. And a check for $25.34 to pay for school supplies. So if you're paying for them, it's getting subtracted from your account. That would be a negative rational number. Write the 3 rational numbers related to the balance in Jason's checking account in order from greatest to least. So think about what we know about number lines. Where are the bigger numbers? Farther to the right. Where are the smaller numbers? Farther to the left. So again, just a rough number line. Here's 0. He has $200 in the account. He wrote a check for 85. So 0, let's pretend this is 85. And then 25.34. Well, 25 would be closer to 0 than 85. So greatest to least would be right to left. 200. Then negative 25.35, then negative 85. So then you will do exercises 5 and 6. When you have these done, you will check video 2 to check your answers to make sure you are correct. And then there are some website games you can go to play, or Prodigy game if there is still time left for your teacher. Your homework tonight is lesson 8. So make sure your teacher has given that to you or you have picked it up. It's just ordering them least to greatest. Remember to think through benchmarks, fractions, and decimals, close to a whole, close to a half, more or less than a half, close to none. Some of those little things can really help you to place them quickly and efficiently. And it's only one-sided tonight. You're welcome. So finish your classwork and then go to video 2 to check your work.